Hi, welcome. If you're a buyer in this market, I'm sure you have a ton of questions. Buying in this market, especially in Rochester, in the general Rochester area, it's not easy, it's challenging. And I think that pushes a lot of people to the side. A lot of people say, I don't want to get started. So you're in the right spot. Let's just talk about it. Let's talk about what it means to be a buyer. In our first conversation, if we meet face to face and you say, hey Sean, I'm looking to buy in this market, the first thing we're going to go over is what sort of house do you want, right? I know it's pretty standard stuff, but how many beds do you want? How many baths do you want? What style of home would you like? Would you prefer a colonial or a cape or ranch? Or are you kind of open to anything? So those are kind of the very basics, is what type of home do you want? Then we got to get into location, and this is where it gets interesting. Where in Rochester, or whatever city you're looking at or town you're looking in, where do you want to be? There's kind of this theory in real estate called the donut theory. And the idea is that not a lot of people want to be in the very inner city, right? Not a lot of people want to be with the skyscrapers and buses. They just don't want a home there, right? A lot of people like to be on the suburbs just outside. See that donut? A lot of people like to be, especially in the frosting, right? In this area that's just this beautiful medium around the city where the distance to their work, especially if they have a job in the city, the distance is maybe 20 minutes or less. That's that donut theory. Lots of people want to be in the frosting. If you're a first-time home buyer, you may want to look in that area. And it's not bad to look in those areas. Oftentimes we can find it, and I don't want to dissuade you. But if you're having some difficulties, one thing we're going to talk about is maybe trying to find an area that's partly frosting and maybe just a little bit of dough. Areas that maybe, if you're willing to drive a little bit further, or maybe if you're willing to do a little bit more city living, maybe we can find in these pockets where there's a little bit less traffic something that's going to work for you, but also allows you to outmaneuver those bidding wars, right? We hear about bidding wars all the time. People stacked up on each other trying to bid for the same house. And that escalates the price of the house, and you wind up overpaying. Now, in this market, the listing price is not a very good reflection of the sale price. Listing price might start at $135, and if you're looking at $135, expect that is probably going to go up to maybe $150. Now, this is a generalization, right? It's not always going to be that. It could be higher, it could be lower. But in the market, the listing price is a very poor example of what you should expect when purchasing the home, what it will actually cost you. So once we've gotten all those things out of the way, then we're going to talk about this big, scary, scary word that I'm going to write on the board. And maybe you've heard it before, and that is getting pre-qualified. If you want to get a pre-qualification letter, it's very important, but it's also kind of this gray territory where it's like, okay, where do I even get started to do that? Well, first of all, you're going to want a local lender. You're going to want a lender from Rochester or in that area, so Canandaigua National Bank, Prime Lending, Genesee Regional Bank are all strong local lenders that have dedicated mortgage departments. We want to start there if we can, so that we can get the most accurate pre-qualification, and we can get a pre-qualification that listing agents prefer. But again, we're kind of missing, what is pre-qualification? Well, essentially, it's the conversation you have with a bank. If you were to walk in a bank and say, I want to get a home, the conversation has to be, well, what kind of home can you afford? Because the bank wants to lend you money, but they also want to avoid risk. And in order for them to do that, they have to go over three things. The first thing is credit. Oh yeah, I have a credit score, right? Yeah, that vague number that loves to just hide in the background of your life, and then all of a sudden it becomes important, right? So credit score is one part of it. Don't turn off the video because you say, I got bad credit. Stop, right? No, we don't have to turn off the video yet. If you have bad credit, that doesn't mean that the game is over, because the pre-qualification is a conglomerate. It's a combination of three things. So credit is one, savings, is another, and work history is the third. So what the bank is going to do is they're going to judge all three of these things and weigh them together. So if all three of these things are poor, then we have a lot to work on. But if two are good, let's say you've got a lot of savings, a lot of work history, but our credit's kind of, it's 620, it's kind of in the minimum territory. Well, we can still make it work probably because the bank understands that even though one part of your financial picture is a little bit riskier, you've got decent savings, you've got decent work history, no reason we can't make this work. So that's the conversation of pre-qualification. All three of these things determine what the bank mitigates as what's their risk level in giving you a loan, and then ultimately after they've determined what risk they're willing to allow, how much they think you can afford. So maybe you get pre-qualified for $200,000. Maybe it's $150,000. Whatever that may be, that's a great starting conversation for you to set expectations. Thanks so much for watching the video, taking the time to listen to me. Again, if you'd like to work with me, please give me a phone call. I would love to have this conversation further, just to get a deeper dive into what you're really looking for in this market. Thanks again.